episode of the 10-Minute Bible Hour podcast.
Hey everybody, it's Matt. This is the 10-Minute Bible Hour podcast. It's a bonus episode, which I guess you know because it was in the song right there that Jeff wrote. And I guess you also know that it is the 10-Minute Bible Hour podcast because those are the lyrics of the song. It says that it's a bonus episode of the 10-Minute Bible Hour podcast. Well, these are rare. We don't do them very often. Yeah, we did one last week, and we're doing one this week for good reason, I might add. But generally speaking, we delete these and clean up the back catalog as we go along because we want that back catalog to be increasingly searchable and to serve as a resource. I'm going to talk more about what we're doing to make the back catalog more useful as we have this conversation that we're going to have here today. But for the moment, the point is, hey, if you're hearing this, it means that you're up to speed and you're getting this while it's hot. So that's pretty cool. Thanks for being here. You know what else thanks for? Thanks for going through the book of Matthew. Are you kidding me? We are almost done. We got a little bit of 27, 28, and then some big picture evaluative stuff to do. I know that we have either 45 or, depending on how I slice it and play it in that last week, 50 remaining episodes. I say maybe 50 because if we do 45 more, which is the number of publishing days we have left before I want to be done, then that lands us on the last day of December at 795. And wouldn't it be better if it were 800? Because wouldn't it be better if it were 800? I don't know. I'd be interested in your thoughts on that one. But 45 or 50 more episodes is what we got left. Just think about what we've done here, though. We started on this October 14th, 2019. Yeah. So it's going to be 3 years and 2 months that you just threw at one book of the Bible. Now, if we're doing it right, it's not just one book of the Bible. If we're doing it right, we're all over the rest of the Bible, and we're learning stuff about the other Gospels, and we're learning stuff about Acts, and we're learning stuff about all kinds of stuff in the New Testament, prophets and Psalms and all of that. And you have indulged every single rabbit trail I have felt like we needed to take. Everywhere my curiosity has pointed us, hey, if you're here, you have kindly and graciously gone with me without complaint. You are gracious and supportive, and I'm so very, very thankful that you have leaned in to the pace that I wanted to take on this thing. And I'm so grateful that I'm getting the impression, at least from you, that you're up for more. I am up for more, and I'm talking like a long time. This is something that I've enjoyed as much as anything I've ever done in my life, ever. And I'm up for doing it for a very, very long time. It is a blast, and the community is awesome. I get all kinds of feedback from you. I hear from you in all sorts of different ways. And I tell you what, this is not a uniform group of people who you are here with. This is a very diverse group of people who think very diverse things. So diverse, in fact, that I think we're all supposed to be scratching and clawing at each other and cannibalizing each other and saying horrible things and describing motives to each other and ascribing blame to each other and burning things down so that some stupid political party can get a little bit more power for 2 or 4 years or whatever it is. And you seem to be people who are playing by a different set of ground rules. You seem to be people who have a different set of priorities, dare I say kingdom priorities. And I like you. I wish you could see what I see from my angle. It's very hard to characterize it and just put it on the internet or say it into a microphone. But I wish you could see what I see in terms of who you are as a group. It's pretty admirable. It's pretty fun. It's pretty encouraging. The point is, I've interacted with a lot of you, and I like you. Me working through Matthew by myself for 3 years and change would be a fantastic monastic exercise in trying to understand God and history and the Bible better, and it would be valuable, and I wouldn't have done it. I just would lack the discipline to get it done. But because you're there and you are how you are and who you are, and because you apparently have some of the same curiosity I do about this stuff, and because you're at peace as well with trying to look at it through the lenses of now with comparable likewise-y stuff, and also through the lenses of the original audience and the original witnesses, the fact that you're willing to track down the historical rabbit trails and dive deep everywhere that curiosity takes us, that keeps me in the game. And it's made it so that every single weekday for what will end up being basically 800 days, I've gotten up and engaged with this text and engaged with you. That is a gift that you have given me. That's not some stupid, fake, humble thing that you're supposed to say because you do a podcast or whatever. I'm not kidding. I wouldn't have done this if you weren't there. And it's affected my life in huge ways. My faith on an individual level is in a different place than when it was when we started this. I think about the Bible in different categories. Heck, I know the Bible so much better than I did before. I can see patterns and just make simple connections that maybe aren't even super profound, but just see it now spread out in front of me in ways that I wouldn't have done that before. And so I just thank you so very, very much for making me do that and for coming along with me. I don't have the words to properly express how grateful I am to you for all of that. We need to talk about what's next. The truth of the matter is, I am a teeny tiny bit nervous about what happens next because I just told you how much I love this, and I don't know what happens when we move to a new book. I don't know if that makes people be like, oh, thank goodness that's over. That was great. I enjoyed it, but I'm good. Or if it becomes the kind of thing where people are like, no, I was just waiting to invite friends and family for the next thing. And we see the community of people who are involved get even more diverse and grow even more. I don't know. I got no idea. So I guess we're fixing to find out. Whatever happens, I'm moving forward, and here is how I'm moving forward. January 2nd, which I believe is a Monday. I hope that's a Monday. That's how I have it written down right now. January 2nd, 2023 is when we are starting our next thing. There will be no break between what we're doing now and what happens next. We'll wrap up Matthew on a Friday, and then we'll make ridiculous choices over the course of a New Year's Eve weekend, and then we're going to stagger back into work on Monday the 2nd. And then we're going to pick up on the new thing on Monday the 2nd. What is the new thing? It's not Esther. Esther is the next book of the Bible we are going to work through together. But before we do that, we're going to take 3 months and change, and we're going to run through the entire Bible. Okay, I know that sounds a little bit overwhelming. We are going to give one episode for each book of the Bible over the first quarter of 2023. I think we can do it. Obviously, we're not going to be able to cover all the details. It'll be a little more surfacey than what we did with Matthew. But it seems like this is a great time for us to quickly, in broad strokes, try to get the whole thing in our hip pocket and have a resource that just sits out there to go back and consult if, say, something takes us to Zechariah. And we're like, okay, I know I covered that, but it's hard to keep all of those straight. And we talked about it, but I don't remember everything about Zechariah. Cool, no problem. Just scroll back and grab the Zechariah episode, and the hooks and the details and the little mnemonic devices that we're using that's a little bit inside baseball in our conversation, it'll all be there. And then we can just draw on that stuff together moving forward. And who knows, down the road, maybe we'll take another run at it and look at all those books of the Bible in another way. But here, we're going to go general overview, general important historical setting, detail things. And most of all, we're just going to try to get the gist, the feel, the point. We're going to try to answer the question, why is this in the Bible instead of not in the Bible? How does this move forward the character revealing? It's not character development because God in the Bible is held out as being immutable and unchanging, but we learn more about God and all of the different circumstances and environments and who he is and what he does through the course of all of these books. I'm not going to give myself permission to go 20, 30, 40, 50 minutes on these things. The format is going to stay the same. We'll get what we get. And again, if we need to come back and do another series on each book of the Bible another time, hey, we can always do that. So here's my thinking. If you got people in your life, friends, family, whatever, coworker, I don't know, you know who people are. If you've got people you're like, dang, I like this thing and I would like to be having more conversations with my friends. I got a friend who I think would dig it, but I know they're going to be overwhelmed by jumping in the last 10% of an 800 episode series on the book of Matthew. If you've been thinking, I just got to wait until the time is right, until something more invitable comes along. Hey, my friend, this is it. I would love it if you would start thinking now in terms of who you might want to bring along for the ride on this thing. I think I'm going to print up books again. I haven't got them designed yet, but I thought it'd be cool to do a Books of the Bible notebook that I could mail out to everybody who supports at any level on Patreon. Look, I'm not going to go check. If you want to scam that system, by the way, that is absolutely fine. Feel free to scam the system. I want you to get the book if I print those out. So patreon.com/the 10-Minute Bible Hour podcast. For those of you who don't know, that is how we fund this. It's how we make it go. This is my primary job. With what comes in on Patreon here, I pay for basic maintenance stuff, equipment, some subscriptions and things like that have to happen to make this go. I pay Jeff to edit and to make music. And then what's left is our family income. And I'm super uncomfortable saying that into a microphone. Oh my goodness, I feel the teeny tiniest little bit of sweat. I'm not joking. What the heck is the matter with me? It's the truth though. Why am I being weird? Everybody has a job, or hopefully everybody has a job or is trying to get a job, and everybody's trying to pay their bills. And everybody who's a dad and has a family is trying to work to make that family go and to support them. And I'm no different. And you make that happen, those of you who support the program. So thank you for supporting the program. That is awesome. And now back to the point about these notebooks for the 2 upcoming series on the books of the Bible and then on Esther after that. I want to just mail you those in one mailing because it costs kind of a lot to print those up and then send them out. So I'm thinking that somewhere in December, maybe late November, I don't know how long it's going to take me to get the notebooks in, but anybody who's a patron at any level, we're just going to send you those notebooks. Now, look, I always get a ton of those back in the mail every time we send them. That could be the post office. That could be you, nothing personal. But if there's anything weird about the address on Patreon, it just kicks those things back, and that's a bummer. Not because I feel bad because I spent money to send you the thing. That's fine. I feel bad because I really genuinely wanted to give you the thing because you support the program, and I'm grateful to you. And this is one small gesture that I've thought of as a way to express that properly and to have kind of a physical touch to this relationship that feels a bit one way most of the time, given the nature of the medium. So if you want to support the podcast, you can. You go to patreon.com/TMBH podcast. The way it works is I bill once for each week of podcast. So if you sign up and you're like, I'm going to give $1 per week, that is awesome and generous, and you don't have to. And I understand that $1 a week is a sacrifice. But if you do that, $1 a week, that's the number you want to go with. What that means is 52 times per year, I am going to charge the patrons through the website for 1 week of podcast. At the end of each month, that actually gets charged to your credit card. And then after Patreon takes out a hefty chunk of fees, and after the credit card companies take out a hefty chunk of fees, and after the government takes out a hefty chunk of fees, then the rest of that comes in to make the podcast go and to make family stuff go, which is great. You can also set it up so that you can put a limit on how many weeks you support per month. So maybe you're like, I want to kick in once a month for like $10. That sounds simple. It's just how I want to do it. No problem. Just set your monthly limit to one creation, one week of podcast, one content creation, one charge per month. I don't know how they say it, but it'll be something like that. And then the other weeks of the month that I charge the patrons, you just won't be charged. From time to time, I'll hear from people who say, hey, I've got some hesitations or questions about some of these different support platforms around the internet, whether it be PayPal or Patreon or whatever. And yeah, ultimately, that's part of why I just want to provide a variety of options, because I really do appreciate the support. And I want to make that easy and a clean conscience thing for people. So what I am doing there is I think we're going to move away from PayPal for a direct support option. I think we're going to replace that with a thing called Planning Center. Planning Center works with a lot of churches. Maybe some of you are familiar with them already. We don't have it set up yet, but the idea there is that it does a lot of what Patreon does. It just gives the person who wants to support a thing the ability to set up what increments and when they kick in, some support here, there, whatever. So I think it's super customizable, and it's just going to be a better fit for what we do. So that little support page over on the website, it's thetmbh.com, probably /support. That'll include a link to the ongoing Patreon page, but you will also see over there the option for direct support or periodic support if you feel like it through that planning center. And then, of course, people from time to time have asked for my actual mailing address because you see something cool or something that you think is funny or interesting and you shoot it my way. And it usually is pretty cool or funny or interesting. I appreciate getting actual stuff in the mail. That's been a neat thing. And I know some of you have supported in that more traditional way as well. This feels so weird for me, talking about how this all works and kind of the guts of it. I know I've already said it like 100 times. I don't even want to talk about this kind of subject matter for 2 minutes without again pausing to say, oh my goodness, I'm grateful to all of you. And you don't have to support some podcast on the internet at all. You can ignore every last bit of this. You can hang out with me for the next 40 years doing this, going through as many books of the Bible as we can get in before I fall over dead. And you never have to kick in a penny, and you never have to feel weird about any of that. It's just the reality is that a bunch of you have decided that you do want to kick in on a podcast you don't have to kick in on because it is free. You want to make a thing exist that otherwise, I guess, probably financially doesn't make a ton of sense and might not exist. That is above and beyond. That is ridiculous. That is awesome of you. And I wanted to get you up to speed on what the support stuff is looking like through the website and what it's looking like moving forward, and hopefully address a bunch of the questions that many of you have sent me in just one conversation right here. Last note on all of that, it says it on the website. I think I've said it here before, but I have very intentionally built what I do as a business. It's an LLC. It is not a nonprofit. And come on, you're smart. You listen to the show. I don't like taxes. I don't like how governments generally use taxes. I don't think being ethical is usually what governments are going for. I don't think governments usually have kingdom values in view. At the same time, I'd rather just pay taxes on it and have people who don't like the churches and religion and Christianity and ministry stuff are nonprofit. I just want to take away a reason to be mad. My content on the internet has always been made with people who do not share the same convictions of me in mind. I have this weird dream that we could hang out together, that we could be friends, that we could have goodwill, that we could use vigorous language to disagree and not be threatened or weird, that we could be forgiving with each other. And so early on in my interneting, I just decided I'm not going to put together a board. I'm not going to do the nonprofit thing. I'm not going to make like an official ministry or anything. I'm going to be a guy in my basement who makes content on YouTube and in the podcasting world and who pays taxes on all of it. And we'll just let that be what it is. So that's how I have it built, which means that if you kick into the program, I can't give you any kind of special tax receipt that works like if you gave money to a church or something, because I am not a church. But all of that to say that the listener support, I mean, you guys kicking in on the thing, that's been the bread and butter of how this thing has worked. We've tried a couple of sponsorships early on. I just say no to stuff for the most part. People do reach out a lot, and that's very flattering, but I don't know, like most stuff just wouldn't be a good fit here. It'd feel weird, I guess, or I don't know. I've just said no to pretty much everything that's come in. And in the back of my mind, I've been thinking like, well, there's in my mind, like 2 or 3 companies or organizations that I think would be a really good fit. And if they ever come and ask, I would definitely listen. We could talk about it. And one of those did come in, and we started talking actually almost a year ago now, just trying to feel it out and think through what it might look like and what might be right. It's a 10-minute podcast. I don't want to fill the thing up with a bunch of ad stuff and promotions. And so it's got to be perfect if we're going to do it. It has to be a 100%. This is like my favorite thing. And I absolutely believe this could be something that could help you if I'm going to talk about it. And so this isn't a sponsored episode or anything like that, but we're pretty close to getting started with Samaritan Ministries. They do a Christian health sharing network kind of thing. And I might not even be using exactly the right language. I've got all of my opinions and my experiences with them. They came through for us big time when we had, I don't need to get into details, but we had something pretty serious happen in our family with one of our kids about 5 years ago. And it was just an amazing experience with them. And so I'm super glad that we're going to try it out with Samaritan Ministries. I'll probably talk about what's going on with them once a week over the next couple of months and talk about them a couple times over on the YouTube channel as well. And that's a big thing. It's a big concept and a different concept to a lot of people. So I'm glad that it's the kind of thing that we can just kind of tease out over time. But I'm really excited that they looked me up. I'm really excited that we're going to do this together. They've been super, super awesome as a fit for our family. And so there'll be more about that. And I'm excited to see where it goes. On the whole, I'm just going to continue to be unbelievably picky with those requests and just say no to most stuff, because I think it's a very rare thing that something would be a good fit for you, and I don't want to put stupid stuff in front of you. I only want to put good stuff in front of you. But now we're way down the rabbit hole. The point is, all the way back to like 15 minutes ago, which is weird in a podcast. It's called the 10-Minute Bible Hour to have anything that's 15 minutes ago, but we do this time around. Going all the way back to like 15 minutes ago. The point is, I want to send you these books, these empty notebooks with cool little art on the cover for each thing that we do. If you're supporting in any way at all, I'm going to do my very best to just find your address, whether it be the Patreon, Planning Center, as we get that set up, whether you kicked in something in PayPal. Hopefully I don't miss anybody, but the point is not like you got to go buy the thing. It's just a way for me to say thanks for anybody who supports in any way. And thank you for hearing me out on all of that stuff. You might be thinking that was a lot of updating. I bet that's all the updates. No, that's not all the updates. I got more. What else I want to talk about here? New topic. All the way back to the thing we were talking about at the very, very beginning of this conversation. And that is that I want to organize the podcast, knowing now that this is a long haul thing for me, in a way that it can be a resource and more accessible and user friendly to get into the back catalog and use old episodes for whatever reason you need to use them for. As you're going through Matthew or trying to remember something that we talked about, the current setup that I have, it's built for that internet publishing waterfall, right? Where you're just making new things. It's like how Twitter is built. How would you even go back and scroll what Twitter was in June of 2020? I mean, it's chaos. Everything just goes over the waterfall. You just keep publishing things and then it goes away. That feed will never be the same. Well, when you do daily stuff, it takes on that feel and it takes quite a bit of work. And in fact, I've hired some people to help me to reform that into a long-term, evergreen, usable resource that is presented in a way that is easier to search. To accomplish this, I'm doing a few things. One, I'm going to restructure the website, especially the podcast portion of the website, thetmbh.com. I think it's /podcast, very dramatically. I don't know exactly what that's going to look like yet, but I am paying someone who has better ideas than me to help me figure that out. And I think they are going to do a sensational job. Stuff should be way more searchable. The second thing that I want to do to make that work better is to put this content arranged in a new way over on YouTube. This is a big job. I'm also going to hire someone to help me with this because I don't have time to pull it off on my own. Right now, I'm leaning toward making a super edit of each of the chapters of Matthew and putting each of those chapters as a single video over on YouTube with all kinds of search terms and with a clear reference down below. If you're familiar with how YouTube works, there's your progress bar, your scrolly bar down below in red. And some of those videos are made in such a way where if you hover your mouse over the scrolly bar, you'll see little tiny divisions along that timeline bar. And if you hover your mouse over it in one of those blocks, it'll tell you something about that block. I want to design this in such a way that we take out the bumper material, the intro, the outro, and we make the whole thing flow together as best as we can for all of, say, Matthew chapter 5. I mean, how much was that? 50 podcasts on Matthew chapter 5, or however many we did. All 50 of those in this scenario would be re-edited and lumped together in one video that'll just have, I don't know, some pretty pictures in the background or something. It won't be like me talking into a mic. It'll just be some filler images or something. But the audio will flow pretty smoothly there. And then we'll put in those divisions, those markers for you, so that you can jump over there, hover your mouse. If you're like, well, I need something on Matthew 5:15. That's what I really want to know about. Well, then you should be able to find that pretty quickly by just hovering your mouse over that until you find the part that you want. You can move your playhead to that spot and let her rip. And then hopefully I can put easily accessible links to all of the text of Matthew 5, or maybe just put the full text of Matthew 5. I might have to use a different translation. There are some rules about that, but I'll put the full text or something down in the description. So you've got all of the stuff we're talking about biblically right there in front of you, and you can more quickly buzz around. Now, I don't want to change how we do the podcast to accommodate that. That'll always be an after the fact thing over on YouTube, and we'll build that out as we have time to build that out. This is a daily podcast that, for the most part, 75% of the time I record the day of. That's my brain. If I got a cold, that's my cold that day. I read stuff. I thought about things the night before. I went down to my basement and I thought a little bit more. I looked over a few texts, but for the most part, I try to just turn on the microphone and be like, all right, rock and roll. Here we go. And if I know a thing, I try not to apologize for having known the thing in advance. If I didn't know a thing, I'm always happy to tell you I didn't know a thing. The real-time aspect of this is very important to me, and that's not going to go away. The YouTube thing is for the evergreening, the archiving of it so that you can get access to it. So I think at some point, hopefully still this year, we'll get those mega edits done and we'll start uploading one video at a time, Matthew 1 or Matthew intro, then Matthew 1, Matthew 2, Matthew 3, and hopefully those will be real searchable. And then right now, if you go to Google and you search like the 10-minute Bible hour, Matthew 11, I don't know. I don't think you're going to get much. If you go and search that on Spotify, I don't think you're going to get much. And I'd like for that to be something that you could even just use a simple search engine search and get connected with the right podcast the right way. So that's one thing that we're going to do to make it more archivable, more shareable, more useful for what we've already done. So you can go back and dip into that easy and conveniently and brush up on things, stay sharp on things, share things, whatever you want to do with it. The podcast YouTube channel will be an afterthought. That is not where my energy and my emphasis is going. That's going to stay here. But it is a resource that I want you to be aware of that should be coming down the pike pretty soon. The next thing I want to do to make it all more user-friendly and easier to search is we're going to go back through and update all of the show notes so that the first phrase in the show notes will show you the text we're talking about that day. Now, starting around episode, 600, 650, we started doing this. There used to be a thing when you published a podcast where you had a title section, but then you could also enter a subtitle. So I was like, I'll just put the passage in the subtitle and it'll always be right there. But within just a few months of me committing to that format, iTunes and other significant podcast providers and podcast apps that you listen to it on, they all started to move away from that subtitle thing, and gradually it started getting phased out of different apps. And then all of a sudden I started hearing from you, rightly, saying I can't tell what passage we're on anymore. It's not there. And I don't know, I still can't find a great solution for that. The subtitle thing was wonderful for what we did. It looks like the best solution is simply to put whatever passage we're talking about in the very first line of the description. But, come on, that's fine print, and that can be a lot of work to look at. So I want to get some elevating layers of searchability going visually in the podcast scroll feed as well. So the next thing that we're going to do to make this all more searchable and more user-friendly for you is that we're going to do some rebranding stuff. I am changing the name of my YouTube channel from The 10-Minute Bible Hour to just my name. It's going to be Matt Whitman. I've started sending out information about that to subscribers and folks over on that side of things. When I started all of this, the 10-Minute Bible Hour was going to be a YouTube channel where in about 10 minutes every week, I would make a video and we'd go through books of the Bible. Well, it was too slow. It lost continuity. We went through the book of Acts. That worked pretty well. But for where the internet has gone since then, it's just clear that wasn't the right format. And as the numbers told me that, and as you told me that, and as I got a sense that there was more of an interest in doing this every day as part of a commute time or workout time or cleaning time or whatever, I moved it over to the podcast, as you are well aware. Well, the podcast then really deserves the name because this really is the 10-Minute Bible Hour. The name, as ridiculous as it sounds, it makes sense here. This delivers on what the name says, whereas my YouTube channel has really become more just a product of my curiosity, my journey of faith, stuff I want to know about the Bible and church history. And so there's tons of little one-off videos about all kinds of different things. There's some really weighty stuff over on the YouTube channel where I go to churches from other traditions and talk with people who dislike a lot of things about what I believe. Now, that's too harsh. They just disagree with things about what I believe, and I disagree with things about what they believe. But we agree on a ton of stuff, and we compare notes, and I try to keep those conversations light and fun because it's just on brand for me. Like I told you earlier, I have this dream that we could talk about these things in a way that isn't weird and fundamentalist, that isn't weird and political and combative at every single turn, but that also acknowledges the elephants in the room and has a laugh about it and speak candidly as men and women of action about these things, and give each other the benefit of the doubt. Like, I want to be the guy who can talk with absolutely anybody and make it work, not by compromising everything or pretending we don't believe different things, but by leaning into it and just being a human with each other. I think that can be how things are in the world again. And I think it's a gift that the gospel and the Bible and the values of the kingdom has to give society right now, that society really, really needs. They just don't know that they need it, let alone where to find it. So we just got to do it. People who are bought into the kingdom thing and the kingdom values thing, we just got to do that in front of people. And we're going to have opinions. We're going to have ideas. We're going to say those things that might make each other uncomfortable. But so what? We power through it because we're people made in the image of God, and we can know each other and we can like each other and we can figure things out and coexist, even as we're in different places of wrestling through concepts. That is a central dream of what I'm going for on the internet. And when I go and do stuff like that on video, it can be pretty serious. And then I do other stuff over on that channel where I'm like, it would be funny would be to go and look at a well-known story of the Bible and really think about it with not kid brain, but with like adult brain, and revisit this that I haven't thought about since I was 8. And then when I do that, I'm like, dang, this is actually really uncomfortable and has some strangely funny elements. And then I want to put on weird armor costumes and beards and yell things into the camera and like have a laugh about it, not to make fun of it, but to grab each other by the shoulders and shake to think about the thing in a fresh and different way. Well, that's just so different than going and visiting a church. And so that channel has just had so much going on. I think my channel is very confusing to the YouTube algorithm. And so a rebrand over there to my own name just lifts so much pressure off of me in a way that's very hard to explain if this isn't what you do with your time and for a living. But I felt like the name over there is the 10-Minute Bible Hour, and it just looms over me because I can't deliver on that over there. That really isn't what that YouTube channel is for anymore. Rather, that YouTube channel is a product of my curiosity, my journey of faith, wanting to advance stuff that I've said I have a dream about regarding how the internet could be and how talking about the stuff of God and theology and ideas could be. And that's what I want to use that channel for, whether it's goofing around and being funny or whether it's deadly serious, important conversation. And so rebranding it to my name, it feels great. It feels right. And I have no idea what the implications of that will be in terms of if people like it or watch any of it, or if the machine learning algorithm at YouTube gets it. I don't know, whatever. I just want to feel peace with it and want to do things that I think are right and make sense as best as I can tell Also, I want to liberate the name, the 10-Minute Bible Hour, eliminate that ambiguity and confusion that comes with having it on a YouTube channel that doesn't do the 10-Minute Bible Hour. And I want to put it entirely on this podcast because I think this podcast has earned it. So this will be the 10-Minute Bible Hour moving forward. I'm still going to call it probably the 10-Minute Bible Hour podcast so people know what we're talking about. But the YouTube channel will be a different thing. Also, that branding and that art, which I think is awesome and super fun. I've had that for a long time. I wanted to update it to be reflective of these changes and reflective of my commitment to this for the long haul. And so we got some new stuff, and it's going to start rolling out very, very soon. And I think it is ludicrously fun. I talked forever with my good friend Bethany, who I've known for an age and who has internet traveled with me for a long time. She's so gifted. She's the gal who did that Lulu the Beaver book that I told you about, that still, if you haven't gone and got that thing, I cannot recommend it enough. She's got such a touch in terms of art and humanity and optimism. And I was really hoping she would help me think through what things would look like moving forward and helping me to do it in a way that I could deliver on and not feel like I was setting myself up for pressures that I can't deliver on. And so she jumped in with me on this rebranding project. That sounds real corporate and formal, but I don't know. That's what we call it. And she just made wonderful art that's reflective of what I want to do. And the art is fun and funny and awesome, and it means something, and I'm super proud of it, and I can't wait to roll it out. And I will also tell you this, in the course of talking, she's like, is there like any singular image that just sums up how you think about what you do? It's like lightning bolt, it's a lightning bolt. Well, let me finish my question. It's a lightning bolt. It's definitely a lightning bolt. And the reason for that is I've always kind of thought of that image as going along with what we do here, that it's fast, it's meant to communicate that it's going to be quick, that there's some power to it, not like because of me, good heavens, we've hung out, you know that, but the Bible holds itself out as being this really powerful thing that has huge implications. But also, I like the lightning bolt thing because it's like a lightning bolt, boom, it hit me, I learned something. And I feel like that happens to me constantly as we're doing this together. And maybe you feel some of that as well. So I like what a lightning bolt communicates in terms of growth and epiphany and connecting the dots and all of that stuff. But then I was like, but we're always talking about getting a book of the Bible in your hip pocket, spreading it out on the table, understanding it for yourself. You can do this. And so I thought, lightning bolt, you can't handle that. It's got to have a wrap on it. And so some of the lightning bolts, they just look like lightning bolts, but we got a version of it that has like a grip. So the idea is, no, you could pick this one up. You could wield it. It's got tremendous power beyond what really fully we can comprehend or totally control, but you can get a grasp on it and you can handle this thing. And so that's why the art looks the way it does. I think it's super fun. I hope you like it too. If you don't like it, I hope you still listen to the podcast anyway. But the art has a ton of color coding and color cues that will be helpful as the podcast evolves in keeping track of what book we're talking about. So Matthew's going to get its own color throughout, and then in big white letters on those thumbnails, everything in, say, Matthew 26 is going to say 10-Minute Bible Hour. I think Matthew is maybe red. I don't remember. And in big white letters, it'll say Matthew 27, Matthew 26, Matthew 25, whatever chapter it is, so that visually you can just whip through that and scroll real fast and buzz back through hundreds of episodes to quickly hone in on what part of the podcast you're looking for. Then you can look a little bit more carefully and look at the first line of the description to make sure you're getting to the right passage that you're curious about so you can recall things from the past. That's what I'm thinking in terms of how we're going to reorganize that. I got a few other ideas for how I might help make that more searchable in the future, but that kind of brings you up to speed. If you are still here, that means that you've just done me the tremendous kindness of letting me take the better part of an hour of your time to talk about something that I think about all the time, to think about something that I want to talk about with everybody all the time. Like, I'm trying to solve this thing. I really love doing it, and I want to make it as awesome as possible. And the people who are with me on it, like, they're great. And other people like, dude, I'm just trying to make your roast beef sandwich at Arby's. I mean, it's cool you have a podcast or whatever, but do you want that red ranch sauce on it or not? I'm really bursting at the seams wanting to talk about it. And so the chance to just take the time that's needed to step aside and fill you in on where my head's at and what I'm thinking about stuff is very meaningful. Thank you for indulging the not efficiency of this conversation and for caring about what we have cooking here. And even if our paths only intersect briefly for a little chunk of time here, it still just means so much. And as I said earlier, I'm just very, very grateful for each and every one of you. And I look forward to doing more of this. That's a lot of bonus episode. All right, we'll wrap it up there. I'm Matt. This is the 10-Minute Bible Hour podcast. Sort of. Let's do this again soon.
Come on now.